They used to remove processions, abuse our daughters, and humiliate us. And that's why we had to run away. My husband was kidnapped from his office, and his dead body was thrown away on Ali Jan Road. His body was so badly mutilated with bullets that we even couldn't give him his last bath. The whole village saw his dead body.
Women are sufferers in another way also, because the young people who have married can't enjoy a family life. There are 3 generations living under one tent. There is an old person, there are younger person, there are children. So in a way, if you take the sexual life, that has been totally denied to people. And that is one reason why I was telling you dwindling population. And that is one reason. Another is because you don't have the means to survive. You don't want the children to come. If you can't fend for yourself, you can't make 2 ends meet. How will you provide milk to the child? How will you provide clothing to the child? How will you provide Medicare to the child? Now children, when they grow, they need all these things. They need food, they need clothing, they need schooling. None of this is existing.
The years went by. It is now 12 years since. The 350,000 Kashmiri Pandits are still languishing in camps. What a shame. The past 12 years have been a harrowing experience for a community which has always been proud of its unflinching loyalty and significant contribution towards the growth of the country. Every single Kashmiri Pandit is a living example of misery, neglect, despair, and deprivation. This is a refugee camp surrounded by factories where bricks are manufactured. The dust from the kiln enters the lungs of the residents. Today, nearly 90% of the population here, including children, suffer from asthma and various other diseases. Representations, protests have all fallen on deaf ears.
The basic amenities like water is also not available here. Imagine our condition when the temperature is at 45 degrees. No one is bothered.
In spite of repeated offers of coexistence and pluralism, the Kashmiri Muslims have failed to see sense. Pandits have not given up. Their faith in their core values stay. They have not reciprocated fanaticism with fanaticism and violence with violence. More than 20,000 people have died in the camps and elsewhere after the forced exodus from the valley. Many died of sunstroke, as most of them were used to the cold climate of Kashmir, and could not acclimatize to the extremely hot temperatures in the rest of India. Heart attacks and accidents, which have been mainly attributed to extreme psychological trauma, were the other main causes. The diaspora they underwent to find a livelihood in various parts of the country fractured the cohesiveness of the displaced families. An entire community with a distinct culture is today facing the threat of extinction after losing their natural habitat. Terrorism in Kashmir is an ideological struggle with specified political commitments which are fundamentalist and communal in character. The major dimension of the terrorist violence in Kashmir is the terrorist commitment to the extermination and subjugation of the Hindus in the state. Because the Hindus and the other minorities do not subscribe to the idea of separating from India, nor do they agree to be governed by a state which derives its authority from the law and precedents of Islamic Nizam-e-Mustafa. Kashmiri Pandits have always been at the forefront of the struggle against secessionism, communalism, and fundamentalism. Hence, this peace-loving, highly literate minority with a modern outlook have become the main victims of terrorist violence. No terrorist violence can be justified on the grounds of its political or ideological motivation. Terrorist violence in the valley is not a freedom struggle at all, and the ethnic cleansing of Kashmiri Pandits from Kashmir is a clear testimony to this fact.
Who has come here to ask us what has happened to my son? He has been killed, leaving behind his wife and child, crying.
There is no justification in a freedom which impinges upon the freedom of innocence. There can be no equality which leads to inequality. Leading international human rights organizations like Amnesty International, Asia Watch, and others have yet to take proper cognizance of the genocide perpetuated on Kashmiri Pandits. The gradual extinction of a civilized community with an ancient culture is yet to awake the conscience of the world. This wouldn't have happened if America would have heard our screams 12 years back. This wouldn't have happened if America wouldn't have called terrorists in Kashmir freedom fighters. Let us not allow anyone to create terrorists just to keep other countries in trouble. Let us not allow the creation of a monster in the first place, because someday it will consume you. One cannot talk about smoking out global terrorism and then give $1 billion to a country which has redefined terrorism into a deadly art form. Through this film, we would like to make an appeal to the world community to spare some thought for the Kashmiri Pandits, fight this menace of terrorism seriously, and see to it that we return to our homeland.